helped to give a sense of confidence on the part of the children. And gradually, things began to come to some level of, I don't want to use the word normalcy, but we began to settle in a bit better. The seniors, they came, and I think we had challenges with the seniors from the perspective that they were so glad to be back at school that they forgot sometimes to observe the protocols. They hugged each other up because they'd missed them for each other for so long. And so we had a little time trying to get them to recognize the importance of observing the protocols, because as we said, if those protocols were not observed, it would put the school then in a very difficult situation. But generally, I think things gradually began to settle down. Um, we could not accommodate, as I said, everybody, and I think that had an impact in terms of the canteen. The canteen proprietor obviously was a bit concerned, but I had to assure him this wouldn't last. COVID is not going to last forever, but we have to make sure that at the same time we do not compromise the lives of those who are in the school. And that is one thing that Ms. Paris and myself have tried to make sure that we do not allow, and the teachers, I should say, and the staff, that we do not allow anybody to break the protocols and then create problem for everybody else. I think we should be safe and ensure that the members of the parents are satisfied. Um, there were concerns about the students, if students became ill. All of those things were taken into consideration. And when we began school, there were one or two students who said they were not well at certain times. And when I went to investigate, there were complaints that had nothing to do with anything that would cause alarm. And we would make provision for them anyhow to be in secluded areas where we could monitor them, of course. We called the parents, and the parents would have come and collected them, but there was nothing of alarm. So we were very happy about that. So I think, generally speaking, we have had a lot to be thankful for in those particular areas. Now, in terms of the actual work, I want to deal with that because I know that has been a big issue among the parents, and I want to address that now, the work online and the work face-to-face. And I want to say, first of all, that I think the general consensus among the student population and the teachers is that we would certainly prefer to have face-to-face teaching, simply because there are too many challenges that we have experienced with online teaching. Some students said they enjoy the online teaching. I want to first of all give you the rationale for the online teaching. As I said, we could not have all. This year we have 1,104 students in the school, and I have been reminded again and again that the school was really built only for about 600 or 700 students. So it means really we are very much over the number of students that can be fitted comfortably into the school. It means really that if even we say 800 is the maximum, we are over by 300 students easily. And I think you have to, for you to understand that, you have to realize that if each class holds about 300, I'm not, I said 332 students, I think you can appreciate that those numbers are extremely large. Ideally, and when I came, this is something that I was reminded of, ideally, we need to have smaller classes. I think that is the bottom line. And right now we are really pushing it because remember, we've had an environmental issue at the school a few years ago, and we have been trying very hard to keep our numbers down. This year, for example, there was a tremendous demand for space on the school compound, on the school row. We try to accommodate some students from some schools, but the reality is it has not been easy because we simply do not have the space. We had, when our students came in from the 11 plus, our school row coming into the school was 100 and finally 180 in all. But the reality is that we had about 49 or nearly 50 applications, additional applications for students who wanted to get into the first form and the second and the third form. We tried our best to accommodate a few of them, but clearly we could not do a great deal. And I hope that parents who missed out will understand. But we really are pushing the envelope right now simply because the school has a lot of students and we don't simply have the room. And I think this clearly has been reflected in our COVID challenge where we have had to half the numbers of students coming to school. Only 16 students could be accommodated in any one classroom. And we had to make sure they were spaced 3 feet apart. They had to wear their masks once they were in the classroom. If they were 6 feet apart, they would be able to wear to take off the mask. But that was not possible. And if we had allowed 6 feet apart for students, would end up that we would only have about 9 students in each class in the first, second, and third year coming to school at any one time. And the teachers certainly had to have at least 6 feet distance, no matter what, whether they were wearing masks or not. So those were very difficult conditions under which we were working. And as I said, I know that parents were very upset, and parents were, um, you know, flustered about this thing and the next. But I think as we look at it, and let me just say at the very outset that I understand the concerns. I don't, trust me, I understand the concerns. We have had to deal with a lot ourselves as as principal and deputy principal, department heads and year heads. All of them have been working with us as administration to try and deal with these challenges. So it has not been easy for the school either, but we've been trying very hard to make sure that where possible, we can meet the needs of the students. So only 16 students per class. Half of those, that would be half, would come to school on one day. That would be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. B on Tuesday and Thursday, and then we had the reversal. And then in weeks 3, 6, 9, and next week, the seniors would come to school. I know again that has not perhaps been what is ideal for everybody, but we have tried to work with what is reasonable and acceptable for us given our space constraints. I've also, in a recent meeting last week, I did say when we presented our estimates to the ministry, I did say to the minister that we really are in a very difficult position. We simply do not have enough room at Combermere to accommodate our students. Ideally, quite honestly, I would like to know that we can return to a full classroom next term, but COVID right now does not present that possibility. And so we will have to deal with the realities as they stand. We are going to look and see how best we can try to work the situation for the next academic term. We've been asked to see how we can get more children into school. It is something we will discuss, but I did say that it is going to be a problem simply because if we do not have enough space, it presents very serious logistic challenges for the school. What do we need? If we can get more rooms, prefab buildings, I would love to have that, because it means at least not only more rooms, but more teachers. We have been promised that we might be getting a few additional teachers to assist us in delivering the curriculum. There are other things that, of course, are challenges as well, and I'm sure my colleagues will speak to those issues when the time comes. It is not only that we are restricted by space, but we also have had a big contributing factor of the problem of internet connectivity. And I think that has really been a real challenge, because there are teachers who have been coming to school and seeking to teach online, and on occasions the internet has dropped out. Nothing we can do about that. And so we had to make the provision to let teachers remain at home and do their work from home to facilitate the situation. That has, in my view, was a reasonable suggestion and request, and we have tried our very best to facilitate. Now, I know that parents have complained that teachers did not come on and so on. We can deal with that in the period, and as I said, I will let my colleagues answer some of those issues, because I know there were issues that were sometimes beyond our control. There were situations where, and I've come to the understanding of this, where sometimes students turned up for classes but did not go when they turned on for registration and so on. They did not stay. There were some situations where students were facing challenges with devices because they were using cell phones or whatever the case might be. There were a myriad of problems that were being faced. And even now, there are still some students who do not have the devices to getting to do their work properly. We have tried our very best because we have had complaints of students not doing homework. And these I would ask Miss Paris a little later when those questions are raised, perhaps if she can just expand on that a bit. But we have had in the last 2 or 3 weeks, Miss Paris and myself have been asking teachers to let us know who have not been submitted assignments. And we have been meeting with them in my office and trying to find out what the problems are and then trying to deal with the best solutions. We've asked students to come to school on the days that they're not supposed to, in the junior school especially, and go over to the IT labs or to the library and use the lab, the facilities to try and do the homework. Some of them were able to get this done. Now, one of the things that we discovered in the whole process is that students said they had done homework, they had sent it in to their teachers, but the teachers did not receive it. One of the suggestions was made that students perhaps could take photos of the work and email it. Some students did that and were able to get through, but there were still some students who were facing challenges in those areas. Now, those are some of the things we're going to have to look at. And I have a solution which I would have shared with Ms. Waterman, our ITC person. And I want to thank Ms. Waterman for really helping us very often when we were facing challenges, and to staff generally, because, we always take the criticism, but, I believe we have, our staff have worked very hard trying to ensure that the students have been taught. And I want to say that it is not only a problem with us, with Combermere. I always say this, I don't want to use it as an excuse, but I know that my colleagues have also said at the other schools that there were a lot of problems as well. We are all using similar, not the same, some of the similar systems, but with variations. And, I did also suggest that perhaps what the ministry may have to do is looking at telling us or letting us all adopt a system that is compatible for everybody, so that at least going forward, we are all on the same page. But that is something that has to be worked out very carefully, so that, everybody knows what to expect and so on. That is something that will have to be discussed. I want to say, however, though, at the end of the day, that in talking to the children, I think many of them are of the view that they would prefer to be in school. The seniors have said it. They've said, Mr. Maynard, quite honestly, we would prefer to be at school, because when issues that, problems come up, it is much easier to discuss the matter face to face with our teachers than having to work through online. In case I would want to say that doing online classes and teaching face to face, teachers have to make preparations twice. And the online preparations for classes can be very, very difficult. And I hope that some of my colleagues, again, will be here to talk about that, because they have had to have the experiences. I have gone into some of the classes, I've sat and I've listened, and I know that our teachers have tried their very best under the very trying circumstances. And I want to make this point as well, that when school was called, some of our teachers were not fully au fait with some of the systems that had to be used. Some people were trained, yes, but some of them were not. Some of them were being trained as they actually delivered, and that was taking time to get accustomed to. And so if there are any failings, I think we have to be appreciative that it is a work in progress. I do believe that certainly by next term, when we return, we would be in a better position to deliver in a number of ways, because we have been having some upgrades to our 2 extra computer rooms that we have. So that should help us a lot. And in addition, we also need to not only have upgrading of our computer facilities, but we now need to have a reliable internet system. Until we can get that done, I think our problems will persist. And so I'm really hoping that the ministry will help us to be able to have a better delivery in the new term. I'm not going to be criticizing, because I recognize these are very real problems. As we have spoken to principals in the Caribbean, we meet with the principals in the Caribbean, and they have also shared the challenges that they face, because at the end of the day, they're still expected to deliver teaching to the children, even if the resources are very, very limited. And some of them have had to share with us that it has not been an easy task. So much so that some schools, I don't think, have even reopened for the term. And CXC has already made a suggestion that students may have to do second CAPE exams not in 2021, but in 2022. We have been fortunate to be able to reopen, and I think we just have to try and work together to ensure that our students will be ready. We will have to do that because reality is CXC is not going to give us any leeway. They said the exams must be done, and so we will have to try and deliver the curriculum as best we can under the circumstances, and our teachers are committed to doing that. There have been problems, and I just want to underscore this by saying that if there have been challenges with teachers, please, I'm asking, if we've been having challenges with teachers, the only way we can deal with the problem is that the matters are drawn to our attention, and so that we can discuss the challenges with the teachers, so that we can try and improve, and let us know. Because as I said, I have been in a situation where I have been confronted about issues relating to teachers and to students, and Ms. Paris and myself don't have a clue of what is going on, and I'm saying that quite honestly. Some parents have reached out to us in recent times, and we have been trying to deal with those problems, I hope, to their satisfaction. But I think for me, one of the big challenges is that sometimes issues are being discussed by parents, among parents, and we are not aware. And I want to underscore that we are not aware. And if we are not aware, we cannot do anything to help. All right. And so I'm asking that going forward into the new year, that our communication systems will be better. I have a young student who has approached me with an idea, which I've shared with Miss Waterman. And I'm hoping that we can perhaps get some of those ideas up and running in relation to communication, because even though we have the PTA chat and so on in place, what I do find is that some parents seemingly are still not getting information, and that is something I think that we all have to work on and make sure that our students are well served in every area. Now, I want to let me see. As I said, our staff or our teachers, it has not been easy for our teachers either. I know they have labored. I remembered comments being made on occasions of teachers not being at school and classes being left unattended. I just want to say that I've had to answer some of those issues. There are occasions when staff will be absent from school. That is something that will happen. I don't think we can get away from that. If staff member is absent, I don't think we can do anything about it. But I have made it a practice for the term, given the conditions, to walk about. And on the occasions that I've walked about, I have seen nearly all of the classes being taught. There are one or two situations where, as I said, persons are absent, and Miss Paris, I know, has always been working to make sure that those situations are dealt with. And there have been occasions when we have had to go into the classes and sit with it by ourselves, or to sit ourselves to make sure that the children are on task. One of the things I would want to say, though, is I think, as I've said to our students, they have to be a little more responsible. And when the teacher does not get there on time, sit down, settle yourself, and prepare. Or if the teacher is absent, just do that and wait for the substitute teacher to come. I think this is one of the areas that is of concern to me. And if we are going to improve as a school academically, I think our children have to take a different attitude. It is not going to improve if our children are not doing the work, and certainly if they're not doing their homework. And this, I think, is one of the areas of concern as well. Some students have not been submitting their homework, and I don't think it is just a matter of COVID. I think that even in face-to-face situations, some students have not been submitting their homework. There is a real concern, I think, about the performance of Combermere School as a school. And the challenge then is placed on our shoulders, on the administration's shoulders, to make sure that the school improves. And it has to be a process involving all the stakeholders, parents, staff. All of us have to play our part, right? Because we cannot make the children do their homework. They have to do that homework because they understand it is necessary. There can be things that can be done, but they have to do their part. And I would want to encourage parents to find out what is going on, because sometimes the children are not being fully honest. And I think we also have to understand that children will say they don't have any homework, but what they are doing is that they're not doing it, or they're playing games and all sorts of things. So I just would ask for parents to understand that. Um, and finally, insofar as school is concerned for next week, the president has indicated that my time is nearly gone. I just want to say, as far as school is concerned next week, we have sent out a notice and we are asking that parents please observe the notice. We are going to have school on Monday and Tuesday for seniors, um, on different days for the 4th and 5th. So parents, please note that. And on Wednesday, the juniors will come in for Wednesday only. We will not be our term will end on Wednesday, as we've been given some time by the ministry to deal with a number of not personal issues, number of issues that we need to deal with in-house insofar as the school is concerned. So that is really just a sort of an overview of what has happened during the term. And as I said, it has not been an easy time for anybody, but we have been trying our very best to deliver our responsibilities in a very new environment. And I think all of us will need to, do our part to make sure we can continue to do that next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maynard. I did not mean for you to rush through your report, but
I understand, ma'am.
thank you.
Okay.
So before we move on, are there any questions for the principal? You can do so by a show of hands, and then you can turn your mic on and then speak. State your name clearly for the benefit of the secretary. So do we have any questions for the principal?
Hi, good evening. I'm not seeing the show of hand. Can I still state my name and ask a question?
Sure, go right ahead, ma'am.
The name is Shannon Agard, and my concern is, have there been any suggestions or meetings surrounding the poor internet connection that the school might be having? I'm trying to think, is it with the service provider? Is it something that if the ministry cannot immediately assist with, that maybe the Parent Teachers Association can assist with? I'm trying to understand the nature of the, challenge.
Right. Thank you very much, Ms. Agard. I'm glad you've asked that question. What has happened is that at Combermere, and I don't know if Ms. Waterman is here. Is Ms. Waterman online? Maybe not. All right. What I would say is that our challenge really is that because of the type of structure that Combermere is, with the very large blocks, soft stone, apparently the problem is penetration of the signal to the various points on the school compound. So that is one of the challenges. So what, I don't really know the language that you would have to use, but from what I gather, what will have to happen is that a number of points will have to be established in the school where the signals can be bounced off and so on, to allow for proper connectivity on the compound as a whole. I'm glad you have asked the question as to whether the PTA can assist. The ministry, and very recently we were having a discussion about this issue with one of the officials, and they did say to us that if we are able to deal with the problem ourselves, then we should go right ahead. Obviously, there is going to be a question of financing, and I think that is something that I would just want to place here in the chat at this discussion at this time. There are some possible solutions that we can use, but it is going to cost, I think, a little funding. When I say a little funding, I don't know how much, but one parent has already suggested that they can help us because I think she is in a position where they have dealt with challenges like this before. It is something that I will talk with with the president and the executive about, and they can always share that information with the general body. But I'm glad you raised that question, Ms. Agard, because we do need to deal with this problem immediately. The ministry has been trying to to solve the problem, but they have 21 schools that they're trying to work with. And so we've been told that we can try and go ahead and see what solutions we can come up with.
Okay, what I would want to ask without going on for too long with this, can we then have made available, because I don't have the finances myself, but I'm thinking in terms of getting like a letter from the school where I can probably, give to a few persons who were probably even Combermereans in the past, that might have businesses or that might be in a position to help. I don't know if they will or will not, but I'm just thinking as a start, if I can have a few letters, I can collect it from the school or whatever to ask a few persons for donations in that regard.
Yeah. All right. What you can do is you can do that through the PTA. I think through the executive president. I think that would be a PTA initiative. But we would give it our blessing. No question of that. And I'm sure that if the old scholars and I think there's friends of the school too who would be very willing to assist. So that is not really going to be a problem.
Noted. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for your questions, Ms. Agard. Are there any other questions for the principal?
Yes, good evening. My name is Gail Hines. My son is in fifth form. I just wanted to know if there are going to be any changes to the schedule that they presently have in term 1 in anticipation for preparation of their exams in fifth form.
Okay.
And will the senior children be at school more often? Because right now they go to school approximately on average once a week, sorry. It's 3 days every three weeks.
Yes. I remember that somebody said once a term, and I was lost for words. Thank you very much, Ms. Hines. Again, I'm glad that question has been raised. That is one of the things that we're going to be looking at next term once we've closed school. We will need to have a discussion because, as I said, the minister, the Honorable Santi Racho, has said she would really like to see more children back in classrooms. But that is going to be dependent on facilities. And if not, we will have to change the format of the timetable going into the second term. And possibly, I don't really want to say much now because I would like us to discuss it first as a staff, but we are contemplating that we may have to do something because at this point, the seniors will have to get precedence as they prepare for their exams. So we will be tackling that matter for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Hines, thank you for your question. Is any other questions for the principal before we move on? And Ms. Paris, do you wish to make any comments at this stage?
Not really. Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Mayor had made a reference to the juniors coming in on Wednesday next week. I just wanted to add that that is the group A of the juniors, group A only. That's all.
Thank you very much for giving us that bit of clarification, Ms. Paris. All right, since there are no further questions for the principal.
I do have one.
Dr.
I
Garner,
do have one.
Go right ahead, ma'am.
It's a very quick one though. It's just for clarity for me. So I've read the letter that came out about school next week, and it had spoke about a Thursday timetable. That when they come in, they're having a Thursday timetable. Am I correct?
Yes, I'll let Ms. Paris answer that one.
Yes,
Okay.
the seniors will be doing the Thursday timetable. We had to adopt the Thursday timetable on Tuesday.
Okay, so the clarity I'm seeking, so that you understand where I'm coming from, is which Thursday timetable? Is it the regular Thursday or when they come in that Thursday?
The same.
Understand they run 2 different timetables. When they come into the school, it's a different timetable.
It's the same timetable that they would have used in week 6 and week 9. So what they did on Thursday.
One when they come into school then.
Right.
For the double periods. Thank you. That's what I wanted to be clear on.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Okay, that's it. All right. Since there seem to be no further questions for the principal, we will now move on to the next item on the agenda, and that is that of the president's report. I must confess that it was hurriedly done because I was battling with a number of issues as well as not feeling well, but I will try to make it as short and succinct as possible since I recognize that we are moving on into the evening and persons might want to move on to head to Sheraton and so on and so forth. Okay, the report, I start first with the executive composition of the PTA. And the following persons were elected to serve as the executive of the Combermere School PTA at the meeting formally held on the 11th of January 2020. Those persons are myself, Rita Evans, the president, the first vice president, Tamara Warner, our second vice president, David Doyle, our secretary, Laura Green, assistant secretary, Julia Mullen, our treasurer, Mern Payne, assistant treasurer, Pamela Paris Bellamy, our public relations officer, Lisa Austin, and our floor member, Antonella Andrews. The principal, Mr. Joseph Maynard, and the deputy principal, Ms. Monica Paris, acted in their capacity as ex officio members, while Ms. Margarita Jordan acted as a teacher's representative. The trustees, Dr. Ambrose Ramsey and Ms. Kathy Ann Herbert, continued in their capacity as trustees. The overriding objectives of the executive were in keeping with the aims and objectives as set out in the PTA's constitution, and the executive committed itself to fostering cooperation between parents and our guardians and teachers of the Combermere School and other organizations, governmental and non-governmental, for the benefit of and in the interest of the students, the parents, guardians, and the school. And secondly, in bringing to the home and school closer relationships so that parents, guardians, and teachers may cooperate for the total development of the child. Meetings were held with the parent body on a monthly basis so that parents could be kept informed as to what was happening at the school. And then sometime in March of 2020, our lives as we knew it were never the same. The COVID-19 pandemic struck, resulting in changes to every sphere of our lives. The lives of our charges were not exempt. Parents became concerned and worried, and understandably so, about what would happen to their children's education. With online teaching now being touted as one of the new norms, how would our children cope? The executive committee made a decision to move the PTA meetings to online so that parents could be kept informed. This too had its challenges, but we persevered. The executive went about securing class reps for each form so that parents and students could be kept abreast with information.
Madam President, you seem to have muted yourself by accident.
Thank you very much. I think yes, that happens. I do apologize about that. What was the last thing you heard me say?
Where you set up class reps for each class.
Right. So the executive went about securing class reps for each form so that parents and students could be kept abreast with information which was being disseminated by the school administration. Based on the responses received, it is clear that this is an appreciated mode of communication between parents and the administration. One of the disappointments of this executive is that to date, we are yet to receive any information with respect to the financial position of the PTA or any other information for that matter, in spite of repeated requests and repeated promises for the information and equipment which were to be handed over. This present executive is yet to receive any such information. I want to assure parents, however, that it is not lost on this executive that parents are still willing to fulfill their commitment to paying PTA subscriptions. In that regard, a decision has been made by my executive to have a new account opened so that those funds can be paid electronically. Regrettably, due to time constraints, just give me 1 minute. I think I have somebody outside my door just playing loud music. Okay, sorry about that. Regrettably, due to time constraints, That particular feat was not accomplished, and it is hoped that it will be accepted by the new executive so that the business of the Combermere School PTA can go on. Another one of the unfinished commitments of my executive was that of setting the fundraising train in motion. A number of activities were discussed and approved, but were never able to get off the ground for a myriad of reasons. It is hoped that with the new executive, that fundraising will be looked at with fresh eyes so that it is at the forefront of the PTA's agenda to raise funds to assist the school in acquiring items such as benches and so on for our children, better internet connectivity, and the like. Finally, the entire executive wishes to thank the parents for their unwavering support. This is particularly so as we all jostle with the impact of COVID-19. Our lives as we knew them will never be the same. They were thrown into a whirlwind. But your executive did not stay down. We as an executive dusted ourselves off and tried to find solutions for the problems which presented themselves. I personally want to thank each and every member of the executive for agreeing to serve at a time when there was so much uncertainty. I also want to say a special thank you to the principal, the deputy principal, your teaching staff, and your support staff for weathering the storm and for continuing to educate our children in spite of the odds. Thank you all for your kind attention. I will now move on to the other item on the, well, I am assuming that there are no questions for me as president. If there are, please state no. If not, we will move on into the next item on our agenda, which is the election of officers. As you're all aware, the present serving officers on the committee came into focus from the 11th of January of this year, and it is now time for us to have elections. Elections were deferred from November, so it is now time for us to have elections so that we change guard and continue with the business of the PTA. So if there are no questions for me at this stage, we will move into the election of officers. None. Okay. As you're aware, the first vice president would have sent out some information indicating that persons could be nominated for the various posts. Those posts will now be declared vacant. We will now attempt to elect a new executive. Nominations for those positions though close on the 28th of November. So by virtue of the nominations received as at the 28th of November, Laura will collect, not Laura, Julia can correct me if I am wrong. There were only 3 nominations received. That is for the post of second vice president, Mr. David Doyle, assistant secretary, and president. So by virtue of those nominations, those persons would be elected, and then we need to secure nominations from the floor for the other vacant positions, which would be the first vice president, the secretary, the treasurer, assistant treasurer, PRO, and floor member. So I now open the floor for persons to either elect themselves, volunteer, or be elected by someone to those positions. And let me just state that the candidate for assistant secretary / treasurer is Ms. Natasha Redmond.
Well, my name is Purdy Paul, and I would like to nominate Natasha Redmond. You can do that?
She has already been nominated. And,
Oh, I didn't realize.
right, yeah,
Okay.
she's already been
So
nominated.
we can
but
then
Vir-
start. Mhm.
I beg your pardon?
You were saying something?
Yes, I'm saying that by virtue of her nomination, she would be elected on the post of that position. So we would now move on to electing persons for the post of first vice president, secretary, treasurer, assistant treasurer, PRO, and floor member.
Okay.
Do you wish yourself to be considered for a post, ma'am?
No, thanks.
Very well. So there's nobody here who is willing to serve on the executive of the PTA. Persons were ready and rearing to go.
Rita?
Yes, please, Laura.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Mrs. Althea Greenford as secretary.
Althea Greenford. And is there a second? Anybody wishes to second that nomination? And is Mrs. Greenford willing to accept that nomination?
I can second it.
Yes, please.
Hi, good afternoon, all. Mrs. Greenford politely declines this nomination. Thanks very much.
You're very welcome. So Mrs. Greenford politely declines the nomination. Any other persons, any other nominations?
Rita, I just want to ask a question. Were any persons recommended for these positions?
Not as far as I'm aware. We had asked, Julia and David were responsible for securing the nominations and so on. And those were the only three persons received for nominations. Nobody else.
Okay.
I remember during the times when we were having the other online meetings, we had persons in excess of 200 persons. Today we have what, 44, well, 43. That is minus the technical person, and then the other persons who are on watching the live stream.
How many people are on the live stream?
Let me just double check there. 10 persons.
10.
Yes. As I said, it is a funny time, but I just figured that persons would want to break down the door to ensure that they play a role in the lives of their children at the school.
Can you, good evening again. Can you repeat the positions that are were already gone or chosen?
That are already gone would be the ones that are already gone would be the president, second vice president, and assistant secretary.
So
we now need persons to fill the post of first vice president. That position was previously held by Ms. Tamara Warner. Secretary, that position was previously held by Ms. Laura Green. Treasurer, previously held by Ms. Mern Payne. Assistant was Mrs. Pamela Paris Bellamy. PRO, Lisa Austin. And our floor member, Antonella Andrews.
Okay, I'm Shannon Agard.
Which post you want to run for?
Yeah, that is what I really wasn't gonna say I'm interested in running a post, but because of the fact that it's open and I don't see any willingness, I will nominate myself if I can do so for the first vice president Marahad, and I will say up front that I know that I'm going to need some assistance and guidance. I've been on PTAs before, but I know that guidance will be required, but I don't mind assisting where I can.
So for first Vice President, Ms. Shannon Agard.
Yes, please.
Okay. And you nominated yourself, so I don't see that should be a problem. Any other person wishes to run for that post, or can we close the nominations at this stage? Okay, we will close the nominations at this stage, and Ms. Agard, by nomination will be the first Vice President. So we now have the President, the first Vice President, and the second Vice President. We will now move to the position of Secretary. Is there anyone who is willing to serve as Secretary?
Perhaps, Rita, if you go to some of the other positions and let's see what happens.
I was just trying to mute the dog in my background. Right, so we have Secretary available, Treasurer, Assistant Secretary, PRO, and floor member. Would anyone want to serve as floor member? PRO? We have what, 43 persons here? Take out the principal, take out Miss Paris and my tech, that is 3, so 41 persons here. I don't want to pick on people, but I will ask based on the names that I see if you wish to serve or no. I see Michelle Doyle. Are you interested in serving for any of our positions? Angela Gabriel. Hi, Miss Doyle, yes.
Yes, good afternoon. Well, I've only recently come into the school having transferred my daughter, so I think
that's
that
all the more reason for you to want to be part of the PTA executive. That's all the more reason.
If anything, I think it probably would have to be the PRO, but I would definitely need some help in that. I, like Shannon Agard, I haven't sat on a PTA here, so I might need some help indeed.
Okay, so you're willing to try for that post then?
Yes, for PR.
Wonderful. So Miss Michelle Doyle, anybody else wishes to throw their hat into the link? No?
Madam President, there's a request on the YouTube feed for you to discuss the role of the floor member by Ms. Griffith.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. All right, I believe as well that we would have sent out the, let me just go through it here. All right, Ms. Doyle, I'll get back to you in a minute, but let me just see if I can post it so that it can go up. Because the floor member basically, well, in most cases, the floor member is the person who would refer things from the, like from parents directly to the executive committee. And that's basically it in a nutshell. So that person would refer any comments, queries, concerns directly from the parent body to the executive directly. But then what we've also done, we have taken that post and sort of shifted it so that we basically have floor members when persons are selected as class reps, because you are a floor member in terms of finding out from the various forms what are the issues and concerns that you're having, and then relaying them either to one of the executive members so that it can then be discussed at the executive level. So that is basically what the floor member does. All right. So I'm going to move back on to Ms. Doyle. Right, so Ms. Doyle, I don't hear or see any other commentary or any other persons who wish to serve in that role. So by virtue of your nomination, you will be elected to serve as the PRO. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I didn't have a nomination, but yes, thank you.
All right, let me go back through calling some names. Lisa Rollins, Lisa Ann Rollins, not Lisa Austin, just something. Maxine Lashley, Andrea Seeley, any of those persons, Terry Ann Bascom.
Not at this time for me. This is Mrs. Seeley.
I beg your pardon?
I said not at this time for me. I also I'm a parent of a new student, and I would not at this time wish to take up a role.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so we still need a secretary, we still need a treasurer, we also need an assistant treasurer and a floor member. The time is 5:54.
Miss Evans, excuse me, just to let you know that Mrs. Gabriel asked to let you know that she can't serve in a post at this time.
Okay, very well. Thank you. Okay, well, the time is 5:55. I don't know if persons are willing to volunteer to serve. If not, I will ask for a motion that elections be deferred until such time as we can elect a new executive.
President Rita.
I can't hear you clearly.
Hi,
hello?
You can hear me better now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I would like to nominate Lillian Arlene Griffith. She was the lady querying the floor member position on YouTube. She would like to be nominated for that position.
Lillian
Arlene Griffith.
Okay, for the floor member position?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that's one less post that we have to deal with. So we have a president, a first vice president, a second vice president, a PRO, an assistant secretary, and a floor member. So we just need to secure now 3 more nominations for the post of secretary, treasurer, and assistant. And since we are all rushing to get those posts, those persons will of course be elected by virtue of their nomination as long as it is unopposed. Stephanie Best, Crystal Headley. I'm just calling names that I'm seeing on my screen. So Dr. Garner O'Neill. What about you?
I'm sorry. I'm willing to help in any way I can, but I honestly do not have the time to devote the amount of time that is needed for something like this.
Very
Not
well.
with my job the way it is right now.
Okay,
My
please.
apologies, but you can call on me to help with anything off and on.
Very well, thank you. Crystal Headley, Joanne John. Miss John? Okay, so we have about 3 minutes to fill those 3 posts, and then we'll have to.
Hi, good evening again, Miss Evans.
Hi, good evening.
Again, I wanted to say to encourage parents though, I don't think that those of us who I guess I can speak for myself in this regard quickly, not necessarily that we have the time, but because it was going on for so long too, and I have a willingness, I think that if we make a start, we will get somewhere. Because I'm overwhelmed as well as a parent in many ways, which I wouldn't go through here. But I think let's just look at it. It's for the children, it's for the school. And if we start, I believe we will progress. And I just want to encourage parents to just volunteer yourselves. I don't have the time either, but I will try.
Thank you very much, Shannon. I don't think I could have said it better. Tamara, I see your hand up. You have a question?
No, that was from before when it was drawn to your attention that Lillian wished to be nominated.
Okay. Crystal Headley, go ahead.
Sorry, I did not.
I'm not hearing you.
Okay, so I was not able to make it confident. However, I am unable. Can you hear me?
Barely.
Okay, so I was saying that my delay because I'm on the road. So my apologies for that, but I'm unable to assist at this time. I'm so sorry, but thank you very much for the offer.
Okay, then no problem at all. Okay, so as I said, we have 3 more posts to fill. Secretary Treasurer and Assistant Treasurer.
Hi, this is Bertie Paul calling. I would nominate myself for the Assistant Treasurer.
Okay, so you're P-U-R-D-E-Y?
Yes,
P-A-U-L, Paul?
Yeah.
Assistant Treasurer. All right, and those persons who have nominated, who've been nominated for these positions that are unopposed, could you be so kind as to send your contact information through the chat so that I can get it, so that I can contact you afterwards? All right, so there we have it. Purdy Paul volunteering herself for the post of Assistant Treasurer. These elections are like no other. We have 2 more posts to fill, Secretary and Treasurer. Are there any volunteers at this stage for those 2 posts? Those are the 2 last outstanding posts. And as I said, it is now 6:01. I do not intend to keep persons here all evening to fill these posts. If there are no other interested persons, then I would declare that the elections have to be deferred, and we would try to elect a new executive sometime next year. All right. Given the lack of interest shown, what we will do, unless there are any objections from any other persons on the executive, on the outgoing executive, it is clear that we are unable to elect persons tonight. So at this stage, I am going to move a motion that the elections be deferred until January or until the next PTA meeting, in the hopes that we can reach a consensus and have persons who are not only ready but willing and able to serve as PTA executive members. I saw that one person wanted to be the floor member, but that position has gone already. Will that person be interested in serving as treasurer or secretary? That is Miss Armstrong, Stacia Armstrong. I guess not. So as I said, we will.
Good evening, Rita.
Hi, Stacia. Stacia, no?
No,
Gail?
Gail, yeah. The
Hi,
post
Gail.
ends when? Because my son is upper six, so that is why I was hesitant to volunteer, because it will go into the new school year and he would no longer be a student, right?
Oh, okay.
So it
But
doesn't.
then you would probably just have to serve until the end of your term. But even that in
If
itself could
the,
create a conundrum.
right,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I was saying. If it wouldn't be a problem, then I will volunteer. But he's in upper six, so he finishes at the end of the year.
This is at the end of July?
He finishes in July, so in September he won't be at Combermere anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So the next elections will be held when?
The elections are constitutional due by November. But because of all the, what happened this year and stuff, we had to defer. And we having it in December this year, but it's really due by November.
So there's no expectation that you will have to be there the next school year, because at the beginning, basically it changes.
The Constitution does not speak to that, but because by the time he's leaving,
yeah,
school goes on holiday. Then we have a thing in September, October, elections in November.
Mm-hmm. That was my issue for continuity,
Mm-hmm. I get you. I don't have a challenge with it. I don't know if any member or former executive member wishes to take issue with it, but I certainly don't.
If there's no issue, I will consider secretary. Once the assistant secretary is someone who is going to help me out. The secretary is a lot of work. From past PTAs, Rita.
Yes.
So if the assistant is definitely someone who's going to help out, then I will do it.
Yeah, I would. Based on her, based on what she sent in, she seems to want to do a lot of stuff. So you would have great assistance.
Okay, now then I'm willing to serve.
That would be Natasha Redmond. So, all right. So Gail Grant would be, still trying with this. Gail Grant would be our
secretary, not treasurer. I don't have the financial education or capacity for treasurer. But I have some experience with being secretary.
Okay. All right. So Gail would be elected unopposed to the post of secretary, and then there's just a treasurer. Is there anyone willing to serve as treasurer before we bring this meeting to a close? Rachel Williams? No? Yes. Maxine Lashley, who's standing there quietly and not saying anything, not responding to me. Stacia Armstrong, you interested in being treasurer? just one more post to be filled, parents. So let us think about it for a minute. It's now 6:07. And as I said earlier, I don't want to keep persons here for an entire night just trying to elect one more individual, nor do I think we should defer elections into next year just to select a treasurer. Believe you me when I say that there is no I in teamwork. That's why you have a team of persons to do these jobs. No person is going to be left stranded, unable to do what they have to do. So if that is your fear, please remember that there's also an assistant treasurer. For the executive that I served on, for example, we had a secretary and an an assistant secretary, and the secretary volunteer to take minutes for one meeting, the assistant for the other, all the way like that, so that the work is shared. So I don't want any parent to think that if you decide to volunteer yourself for the post of treasurer, that you're going to be left out there alone without any assistance. That does not happen, and it will not happen. So is there anyone who is willing now to volunteer for the post of treasurer? And it is now 6:08, and I'm not trying to push anybody, but certainly by 6:10, and our posts are not filled, I will bring the meeting to an end and defer the elections until the next meeting.
Ms. Evans, a suggestion, if I may.
Go right ahead, sir.
Right. Those persons who have volunteered to assist by giving themselves, is it possible for them to remain and to fill the one post? I know you said.
Go again, I didn't hear you, sorry.
Right. I was saying, is it possible those who have already volunteered their services, there's only one post now as treasurer, can that post be deferred until next term? Because persons have volunteered, and I really think it is important that we don't just now put them back into limbo. I'm just asking a question.
All right, let me just have a quick read of the Constitution.
Madam President?
Yes, please.
I don't know if you saw the chat, but Ms. Armstrong has said that she will assist.
Not at this time, unless there is a helper. So, Ms. Armstrong, would you be willing to be treasurer? As I said, you would have an assistant treasurer in the form of Purdy Paul. And I am sure that the former treasurer, Ms. Mern Payne, and the former assistant, Mrs. Pamela Paris Bellamy, would not hesitate to offer their assistance to you. So would you then be willing to serve as treasurer, Stacey Armstrong?
Ms. Armstrong, you're replying to me privately. You have to click to everyone.
Are you seeing her response in the chat? She says, yes, please.
Oh, okay, I'm not seeing it. Thank you very much. Right, so Stacey Armstrong will now be the treasurer for the Combermere School Parents Teachers Association 2020 to 2021. All right, if I may, I will just go through the names of the persons who have been nominated, and by virtue of their nominations will be elected unopposed to the position of president. That will be Rita Evans. First Vice President, Shannon Agard. Second Vice President, David Doyle. PRO, Michelle Doyle. The Secretary will be Gail Grant. The Assistant Secretary, Natasha Redmond. Treasurer, Stacey Armstrong. Assistant Treasurer, Purdy Paul. Floor Member, Aline Griffith. Those are the persons that I have recorded for the positions. Of course, the principal and or his deputy would serve in their capacity as ex officio members. The only person that we have not been able to deal with is that of the teacher's rep, but that can be done not at these elections, but that can certainly be done sometime in January. So those are the persons who have been nominated and elected to serve on the PTA executive. And I think I have the contact information for most of you, but if you can, please either message me or email me. I think my information should be in the WhatsApp group. So you can message me so that we can get into contact with each other to start to prepare ourselves for the upcoming school year. I now move on to any other business. Is there any other business? I saw that woohoo tomorrow. All right, I see your number, Ms. Armstrong. I'm going to note that. So I would need a contact for Purdy Paul, Michelle Doyle, Shannon Agard, Gail. I need yours as well. So y'all can send that to me. Is there any other business? No further comments, queries? Well, there being no further comments, queries.
Good evening. One quick, might not be other. This is just to follow up on your comment that the information was not passed on throughout the year from the prior committee. Just to know what might have been causing the delay.
I am not in a position to say, ma'am. I personally would have made a number of requests from the names that were given to me to have the information delivered. I was promised on many occasions it will be ready, it will be ready. And as at today's date, I still do not have any reason as to why it is not ready, no communication. But hopefully that issue will be discussed at the first executive meeting for the new executive so that that situation can be dealt with and put to rest, because it is certainly causing a lot of angst. I don't want to say among the members, but it is causing some, difficulty in terms of not having that information available.
Okay, thanks. Noted.
All right, I see a question here from Ms. Armstrong about an update on devices for staff and students. Mr. Maynard, are you able to shed any light on that?
All right, there isn't much really that I can say. I contacted the ministry about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they said they are out of devices at the moment.
That they're out of devices?
Out of devices, yes. They would have had about 4,000, and all of them have been given out. So what we have been doing is that we had a benefactor an old scholar, who made a donation of devices, not laptops though, to the school, 50 in all, and we have fallen back to handing out those to our students. But I think for me, one of our challenges is that I think the ideal device would be a computer, a laptop computer, because as I said, students are having challenges submitting work, and I think some of the devices are really as capable of doing some of the work that the students need to do. So we've been promised that when the new devices come in, whenever they will be coming, we will be among the first to get.
Okay. All right. All right.
Hi,
So,
good night. Good night.
hi, good night.
Hi. This is just a question about the Group A juniors going to school next week. Is this because they would have missed the day for Independence Day? And I'm saying that they're doing Tuesday's timetable. I know they would have missed that Monday, which would have been Wednesday's timetable. So I'm just wondering, is it Tuesday's timetable that's on the schedule, or is it Wednesday's timetable that they're going to be doing?
All right, Ms. Paris, I defer to Ms. Paris.
Yes, yes, sir. We said they'll be doing Tuesday's timetable. They did miss a Tuesday that date when we had no school because of the impending weather. So, you know, it's a Tuesday that they would have missed anyway. So we're going forward with the Tuesday timetable on Wednesday with them.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other last issues under this head for the principal? And another question here about reports. Reports are being emailed. I think some some teachers would have already informed the students that reports would be emailed to them, but is that across the board or only for some of the classes, the forms?
Okay, I did. Sorry, Ms. Paris.
No, I was just going to say, Mr. Mayor, that it's across the board.
Okay, very well. So that answers Ms. Armstrong's question. All right, well, that being said, it is now 6:19 p.m. And at this stage, I will invite the principal and the deputy principal to give their closing remarks. And then I will bring the meeting to a close.
All right, Ms. Paris, I will let you go first, ma'am.
Okay, sir. I'd just like to say that, as Mr. Maynard has mentioned before, it has been a challenging term in many ways for parents, students, teachers, and the school's administration. One thing that stands out to me and that I would like to share is that I find that too many of our students, and I'm talking particularly of the junior school, need to develop a sense of responsibility when it comes to their work, making sure that they do what they're supposed to do. Mr. Maynard and I saw quite a number of first to third formers who were reported to us for not having submitted work. And in many cases, too many, it was more than just one assignment they had not done. And when you question them, not all, but too many, some were having difficulties with their devices, etc. But there were some who just were somewhat dismissive, or that might be too harsh a term, or they are not as, let me say, determined to make sure that they send in what they're supposed to send in. And I think maybe I'm asking parents to please check in with your children. You need to be on top of them, keep reminding them. Too many teachers have been complaining that when they have the face-to-face with them, they keep reminding them of the assignments that they have missed and they need to send in. On Tuesday, I don't know if Mr. Maynard remember, Ms. Graves was with us, a young teacher, and she was at her wit's end. She said she kept reminding the children over and over and over about the assignments they had to send in, and they did not send them in. So I don't know if parents were asking you, as far as possible, keep behind your children, keep reminding them, help them to understand the importance of submitting the work that they need to submit, and to make sure that they get their work done as soon as possible. Some of them, they miss the assignment and they forget and they go along happily, and you look down the road and they're 2, 3, 4 assignments that they haven't handed in. So just keep reminding them, checking with them, ask them to see what it is they have to do, and encourage them, keep talking to them. We need to tell our children what they need to do at this stage. They need us there with them at all times. They are in secondary school, yes, but we cannot abandon them there. They've made it, yes, fine, but there's lots more work that they have to do before they even finish. So we need to start inculcating in them proper study habits. They need to have, make sure that they hand in assignments on time, do what they have to do on time. Otherwise, things are going to pile up on them and it's going to be even more difficult for them. So please help them as far as possible with that. And I want to say here that I wish everyone a blessed Christmas. I know things are difficult for many of us, and we just hope and pray that with the coming new year, 2021, that we will be seeing improvements. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paris. Mr. Maynard?
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Evans. I would want to echo Ms. Paris's comments and to say that I really hope that in the new year we can get a lot of these challenges that we've been facing under control in that particular respect. And as I said, from our side, we will certainly do what we can to make sure that we can deliver more effectively to the students in whatever way possible, so that the parents can be assured that we will do our best at all times. I also want to say that, like Ms. Paris said, I want to wish everyone a very happy Christmas. I know it's going to be a very difficult one, a very different one this year. Just try certainly be safe. And I also want to appeal to you as parents, if you happen to know of any students who are, some parents are under very difficult circumstances right now. Persons have lost their jobs, as you have realized. Persons are protesting because obviously they will perhaps not have very much to provide for their families at this time of year. If you're aware of any persons who can do with some assistance, I know that our old scholars has reached out to me to ask me where they can help. And so if that anyone can make any suggestions, that would be appreciated, because we will try and do what we can to assist. I wouldn't ask anybody to say anything here, but if you can contact Ms. Evans and just let that information be filtered to me, I would appreciate.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Maynard. I see just one last query here, and I will engage the person. This is from an Allison, and she is saying, with reference to the students not submitting work, perhaps the teachers can be reminded to respond to queries and questions with the said work then sent via email. I have sent a few emails to some of my son's teachers and not a single reply. And Alison, here is your sister. I've done the same thing and nobody responds. Would Ms. Paris or Mr. Maynard care to comment on that? Because Ms. Paris, we just raised the issue of students not submitting work, etc. But then there are teachers who fail to respond to queries when asked, fail to respond to any kind of email when you ask for assistance, they don't respond. Is there anything that is going to be done about that, or any attempt made to speak to those teachers?
All right.
Well,
yes.
Go ahead, Mr. Minute. Go ahead, Mr. Minute.
I was going to say that I think if you listened earlier, I did say that we know that there were some challenges this term in terms of homework and so, and that is one of the things we will have to discuss where we can improve. Because as I said, in talking to the students, Ms. Paris and myself, we realized that students said that they had submitted the work, but that the work did not reach the teachers. And I think that may be put down to some extent to the types of devices that the students were using. That's why we invited some students to come in and to use the facility at the school, to use the laptops. And as far as I'm aware, in those cases, the work was sent on to the teachers. So we will work from our side to sort that particular problem out. I can't speak for everything, but I know certainly that we do know of some challenges, and we will try and iron those out next week.
Very well, Mr. Maynard. And with that being said, all that is left for me to do is to, again, thank the Barbados Youth Development Council for agreeing to host us and engage us with the YouTube live stream. We really appreciate your assistance in that regard. And then for me to thank again the principal and the deputy principal and your teaching staff and your ancillary staff. And of course, to wish everyone God's richest blessings for this Christmas season and beyond. I trust that 2021, because I keep saying what a year 2020 has been, but I certainly hope that 2021 will be more enriching and great gates will be opened for all of us for the new year. So happy Christmas to everyone, and hopefully I will meet you all back virtually in January so that we can have our first PTA meeting for the term. It is my understanding that the new school term starts on the 5th of January 2021. So you would get emails and correspondence closer to that date to indicate when the meeting will be held. So have a good night all and enjoy the rest of your weekend. And thank you all once again for being here.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. Same to you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.